let's talk about the spiritual root of fear. The spiritual root of fear, if we can understand it, it will then help us deal with the fear and not be governed by it, not be ruled by it, because let's face it, we don't really want to make our decisions from fear, yet so many of our decisions are from fear, right? It's so limiting, it's crippling. And I always like to think of fear as standing for false expectations appearing real. So that we project into the future, particularly the future, what if this is gonna happen? What if that's gonna happen? I feel the surge of fear emotionally, and then I recoil, and I keep playing small. I keep stuck in my own limitations, in my own small, narrow place. And that eventually is so painful for us that we're willing to break free of that potentially later on in our lives, because the pain of playing small is so much more painful than the fear. But what if we can circumvent that? What if we can work out how to deal with fear and respond to it differently and understand it deeper than just psychological and emotional? So then we can really master it. And if we have that self-mastery, we never have to make decisions from fear again. We can make decisions from our centered place, from our higher self, from our deeper knowing, whatever you want to call it, inner wisdom, gut feeling, heart, whatever you like to call it, but that deeper place that is not fear. And so how I like to tackle fear is on 3 levels, psychologically, and then emotionally, and then spiritually. Really understanding it from the spiritual root, I found, is the most powerful, because it includes the psychology and the emotion. And the spiritual root of all fear is a type of disconnection. That's right, you heard it here, right? It's a type of disconnection, which means that if I learn how to feel connected, the opposite, then I will never experience fear. And I have seen this, I have experienced this myself. And when I talk about connection versus disconnection, I talk about the fact that there's 2 worlds inside of us. There's a world of connection and a world of disconnection. And we flip between these 2 worlds all the time. Whether we're aware of it or not, we do it all the time. I can disconnect or connect to myself. I can connect or disconnect to others, and I can connect and disconnect to a higher power, divine source, God, whatever you want to call it. To the degree that I'm connected to myself and to others and to God, to that degree I live in this world of connection. And the world of connection is actually true. It's a true thing, right? We have all sources in ancient wisdom, right? The Shema prayer, if you know of Jewish wisdom, Shem Echad means everything is one. There is only oneness in the world. And we are connected. It's just so hard to believe that. It's an illusion to fall into, to believe that we're really truly separate. And when I can learn to align myself and tap into that depth of that reality, I will no longer feel anxiety and fear in the same degree. And they can't coexist, by the way. To the degree that I feel that connection, that love, that relationship with myself, others, and a higher power, to that degree I will not feel the disconnection and the anxiety and the fear. And so the way we tackle that is by looking at fear when it comes to my thinking. How do I think that creates that sense of disconnection? What do I do that disconnects me? So, and everyone does it uniquely, differently. So you have to get to know yourself, right? Judgment will disconnect you, because judgment, when I'm being judgmental of someone else, I'm stepping away and disconnecting to look down on them, right? Or to say, oh, I'm not like that. There's a judgmentalness, critical, being super critical, being negative. All these types of thinking will disconnect you, right? Definitely assuming things negative about yourself. Oh my gosh, they're so much better than me. I look so terrible. I look right. All these kinds of things will create anxiety, and we don't realize the power of our thinking and how what we think literally creates the reality that we live in, and we'll keep manifesting that anxiety over and over again. So we know the famous term abracadabra, right, from Disney. Magic actually comes from Aramaic in the Jewish sources, which is abara, I create, kadabra, like I speak. Literally, I create as I speak. And that means that literally how we speak to ourselves creates our literal reality emotionally. So when I'm feeling anxiety, my first thing is, what am I thinking that keeps generating this, right? Because it's in my head, it's in myself. What am I thinking? Number 1. Number 2 is then, what feelings does that create? What are the feelings of anxiety and fear? Let me get to know them really well. Many of you know them. I know them really well, right? Heart palpitations, butterflies in your stomach, shortness of breath up in the upper chest, tingling sensations, could be sweaty palms. There's lots of different sensations that go along with fear and anxiety. And when you start to notice those creeping in, the earlier you can detect them, the better, the more you can then also do some certain physical somatic exercises that will help bring the body back to center. So deep breaths into your belly. As you breathe in, your belly goes out, right? Breathing in for 3 and out for 3. Feeling your back against the chair and your back against something solid. So actually feeling your edges. Getting into a bath helps enormously because the water actually makes you feel your edges of your skin. And that actually reminds us subconsciously of that back in the womb. So it creates safety, but also just feeling the edges of your skin. That's why we like a hug, because a hug allows us to feel our edges and then we can relax inside. That's why we swaddle babies, because when they're feeling vulnerable and anxious, when we swallow them, they calm down. So even though we're adults and we're not babies, we have the same response to that edge of the skin. And if you can do anything like that, even that's why sometimes getting under the covers in bed and wrapping yourself in the blanket tightly can feel really snug and safe. It's that idea of that swaddle from when you were young, right? So anything like that, a heavy blanket is amazing, right? CVS, go and get it from the pharmacy. Heavy blanket really also does it really well. If you're feeling really anxious, want to come back to just feeling calm. These are very quick resources that you can use viscerally. You know, changing your state also really works. Jump in a pool, go for a run, go for a walk, take a shower. Changing your state helps a lot as well. So if we understand how we can connect more deeply, where am I lacking connection in my life? How can I go out and create that connection on a more of an emotional and spiritual level? It will also mitigate the anxiety. Sometimes the anxiety comes from feeling lonely and feeling really, really alone and isolated, and then the thoughts kick in. Oh my gosh, no one loves me. I'm by myself. I've got nothing in my life and I'm really not going anywhere. I'm not doing what I want to be doing. I'm a failure. I thought I'd be somewhere different by this stage. You hear all these thoughts, right? You know them. I know them. We all know them. So whatever your version of them are, it often comes also from feeling very self-focused, self-absorbed. We think that if I'm self-absorbed, I'm going to fix my life, but often we can be too self-absorbed and it creates more isolation and anxiety. And so in order to come out of that, in order to deal with that fear, I can then choose to be a giver. And giving is the one common way that we all, if we go into a mode of like, what would be a response of giving right now in whatever situation you're in, like giving music to the street when you're driving by on a Harley Davidson is one way of giving. Thank you. So how am I going to be giving? How can I give to whatever situation I'm in? And do I have what to give? Yes, even my little doggy was appreciating that giving. If I'm a giver, I can move myself out of the world of disconnection. That's the irony, by the way. It's the biggest paradox, because we feel that when I'm focused on myself, I'm going to feel happier, but really that's not the case. So what would be an act of giving right now? How can I give? When I give, I connect. And that's just an amazing thing to know, because it feels so counterintuitive, right? Feel like, no, I want to give when I feel like giving, and right now I feel terrible, so I don't want to give anything. But actually, if you force yourself to override that lower nature of like not wanting to give and being selfish, you'll actually arrive in connection with your higher self. It's a very deep idea that when we override the lower self, the animal self, the one that just wants to do what feels good for it, right? The one that wants just to do whatever feels comfortable and delicious and entertaining and exciting. When I override that and be selfless in some form to focus on others, I ironically feel much more fulfilled and connected to myself. So with that, I hope this is helpful, and I hope that it gives us a different level of self-mastery and understanding, awareness around fear, so that we can make a different choice.